والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع هداهم أما بعد. Now we often hear this entrance by speakers and shuyukh, alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'a hudahum, but we often don't actually emphasize on, the reason why he said is because it's important what we're saying. Can I do this? It's because we often don't emphasize on what it means. And this is something I have been noticing in my trip to Australia, speaking about the Arabic language. First, let's see what it means. You say, Alhamdulillah, you start praising Allah Azza wa Jal. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, and praises and salutations upon the Prophet. And then you say, وَمَنْ تَبِعَهُمْ, and whoever followed them, from scholars, starting with the Sahabah, starting with the tabi'un, those who saw the companions, but didn't see the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and believed in Islam and died upon. And so the reason why we include them is because as Muslims, these people are the ones that we need to take example of. We need to take example in how they lived, how they spoke, how they talk, how they live their life, and what they saw as priorities. And these people are often found in the books of Al-Islam and referred to as Salaf, which means in Arabic something that preceded you, or Sabaqa as well. That's why Allah says in the Qur'an, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said to Aisha, أَنَا خَيْرُ سَلَفِكِ, I am the best of your predecessors, that once I die, you're going to have, your predecessors, I'm going to be the best of them. Not your grandfathers, not your whoever from the Arab that you might, praise, but I am going to be the best of your predecessors. And so, knowing that, I have a quote in my mind of one faqih, one scholar who is recognized for his jurisprudence and knowledge in fiqh. He said, وَكَانَ السَّلَفُ يُؤْثِرُونَ الْعِلْمَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And the Salaf, in this case the predecessors as we said, they used to prioritize knowledge over everything and anything. And so what I have been seeing here in Australia so far is that, so every time they give me different topics from place to place, some place how to use your time at university to learn the Arabic language, some other place how to, what is the today's talk? The name of it, what was it?
Reviving the Arabic language.
No, that's the whole intention. There was your Arabic years, how to make your university years. In your university years, the best years to learn the Arabic language, something like that. But the reality is that I keep on seeing that if you don't realize that knowledge is the thing that those generations used to emphasize on and they used to prioritize, then you are perhaps going to be motivated after the talk about learning the Arabic language, but that's going to fade away because you are not emotionally attached to the outcome, which is getting close to Allah, which is a foundation in your life. If you have now taken that as a lifestyle, which is prioritizing knowledge, as Ibn Qudam al-Maqdisi says about the Salaf, which is nothing too different than what the Prophet ﷺ said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ, that seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. And in another riwayah, another report, he added Muslima, and Muslim woman. So for any Muslim, seeking knowledge is the most important thing and the thing he should prioritize. Now what's knowledge? We're not talking about physics and knowledge of history of Australia and whatever type of knowledge you guys are seeking here in university for a degree, for a worldly benefit. But rather knowledge, what it is قال الله وقال الرسول وقال الصحابة, as Ibn al-Qayyim said. Ibn al-Qayyim, one of our great predecessors as well, and great scholar, known as the doctor of the hearts, because of how in depth and eloquently he would speak about how to fix the diseases that the Muslim has in his heart, from jealousy and from corruption and from sadness and from depression and from traumas and from limiting beliefs, all the different diseases that the heart has. Ibn Qayyim, he was very eloquent in describing how to fix those. He said about knowledge, that knowledge is قال الله وقال الرسول وقال الصحابة. Allah said, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, and the Sahaba said. The companions of the Prophet said, i.e., how do you become a knowledgeable Muslim? You know, and most of the times we see somebody with a beard, like me, or some of the brothers here with a kufi on, you know, and he's always wearing a thobe, and he has a certain type of appearance that just tells you this person is just wise, has knowledge. What causes for a person to become like that is how many quotes of قال Allah, the Qur'an, قال الرسول, the Prophet ﷺ said, and قال الصحابة, and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ said. The more you go over these quotes, first of all, read them, if you can, memorize them, and more importantly, work upon them. The more you do that, the more it starts to affect you. The more it starts to affect you in the way how you behave, how you talk, your interests, where you want to study and what you want to study and what you want to spend your life doing. So this is the most important thing, and this is the first thing that we need to recognize, the power and importance of seeking knowledge. And so knowledge, as we said, is قال الله وقال الرسول وقال الصحابة. Now once you realize that, it doesn't matter, you don't have to want to be an imam or want to be a sheikh or want to be that doesn't need to be your goal. But you as a Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ said, regardless of what type of Muslim you are, whether you're a pilot, whether you're a professional athlete, whether you are a doctor, it doesn't matter. Knowledge still, it should be your main priority in your foundation. You know, sometimes there's been brothers and sisters that have been asked, we're talking about the importance of the Arabic language and how you're going to get closer to the Qur'an by learning the Arabic language, but they ask me about the prayer and if it's fine to just pray one prayer a day. It's like, whoa, we got everything. We need to go back. Forget about this topic. We need to go back to our foundation. What are we? What are we doing? Why do we want to even learn the Arabic language? Because why would you? The Arabic language is what will allow you to actually seek the knowledge, which is a secondary. Obviously, there's some knowledge that is an obligation for you to know, which is a threshold. But then seeking knowledge as a whole, like actually becoming more knowledgeable, that's something that is a secondary thing, right? Your first obligations is your 5 pillars of Al-Islam, your 6 pillars of faith. That's an obligation. That cannot be shaky. So now if we talking about the 5 pillars of Al-Islam, you're asking me questions why the 5 pillars of Al-Islam, you're not applying them, that we have a problem. We should change the whole topic. So this is why I wanted to start with this topic first, and why we even talk about the Arabic language is because the Arabic language allows you to have access to the most honorable thing to do, which is seek knowledge. And as Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, he said, طلب العلم خير من صلاة نافلة. That seeking knowledge is better than praying extra prayers. Those prayers that you do before Fajr, after Fajr, after Dhuhr, after Maghrib, after Isha, is better. In Qiyam al-Layl, your extra prayers that you might do in the night, your Taraweeh, all of these extra prayers that are nawafil, that are extra. It's better for you to seek knowledge and spend the whole night trying to understand one ayah than actually, just pray the whole night and until your feet are bleeding. That's what Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, said. Now, once we have these, is there any question about this? About the importance of knowledge and how knowledge is part of the life of the Muslim? Any question about this? Are we all agree? Can we raise our hands if we all agree on this? Why did it take you that long to raise your hand? Why did it take you that long to raise your hand? Huh? We raising our hands, sisters? Okay, cool. You too? You got it? Come on. Now, once we know this, and we agree on this, the status of the Arabic language is something that those generations that we're talking about, those same generations that taught us how important knowledge is, they used to look at the Arabic language as knowledge as well. Just because it's what will allow you to understand this knowledge in its true form. Now, somebody might say right now, well, I still can open the translation of the Qur'an or the translation of a hadith and read it, and I still, benefit the same way. Why would I need Arabic? And that's what we're going to get into. Because we need to realize that if somebody doesn't access these sources with the original language, there is going to be a big percentage of meaning that will be lost. And through that meaning is closeness to Allah Azza wa Jal that gets lost with it as well. And to put it into perspective, imagine your significant other, wife or husband. You need a translator to speak to them. And every time you have to tell them something, or crack a joke, or tell them how you feel about something that you're angry, you can't even do it directly. You have to, man, hold on, let me get my translator, man. You got me. She's there waiting. It's too long. And even the translator, Google Translator, is going to deliver a meaning. Maybe you might want to say, you hurt me. And maybe your Google Translator is going to say, I'm going to hurt you. Now she reads that, she's like, wait, what? What do you mean you're going to? And so through translation, there is so much that gets lost. And every language has a particular tone, a particular culture. And I think pretty much all of us here have, brown or parents from somewhere other than Australia and probably speak a different language at home. And so you guys know how that disconnection of my father might speak English, but he's a little broken English. So if he says, be quiet, shut up, he doesn't really mean it like that. He actually means it in a different way. And I'll tell you a funny story. Where are you from, brother? Yeah. From Sudan. Sudan? Tamam. We don't have no Somalis in here? Were you Oromo? Nah, Eritrea. Okay, so I'll tell you a funny story. When I wanted to get married to my Somali wife, I was telling her, let me talk to your father directly. I would just talk to him, don't worry. She's very hesitant. No, my father, you don't understand Somalis. These, that, and back home is different, these, that. I said, just let me talk to him. Finally, her and her sister, they set up a plan. Apparently, they let him know that I was going to call him. So I called the sheikh, which is now my father-in-law. I call him, I say, Assalamu alaikum, uncle, how you doing? May Allah bless you, hayakallah, this, that, trying to show my best manners. He said, who's this? He says, Muhammad. Muhammad who? Muhammad, in my mind, I'm thinking they already set me up. They already, told that I was going to call. Muhammad who? I say, Muhammad interested in your daughter. He said, okay, Muhammad, look, don't ever call me again, okay? All right, brother. All right, assalamu alaikum. Now, you speaking English, you're going to say, wow, he doesn't want me to call ever again. He's like, he refused me, this, that. He didn't necessarily meant it like that. What he meant is, okay, fine, you have done what you had to do, which is talk to the father. Now don't ever call me again as in, let me just take care of the rest. I will just talk to my daughter and set it up. Now in my mind, I'm thinking, he's just saying, yeah, you not joining our family, my brother. Don't ever call me in your life. That's what I'm thinking, right? And so through mastery of a language, you are able to convey meanings that somebody who might not master that language might not be able to convey, or might deliver that message in a different way. And likewise, it happens with the Qur'an. And we're going to see this right now. And we're going to see through this how important it is to master or learn the Arabic language for the Muslim. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Qur'an, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, indeed, we have sent it down as an Arabic Qur'an so that you may understand. Right? So Allah Azza wa Jalla, why would He say we have sent it in a Arabic Qur'an so you might understand? Or He could have said we have, hypothetically He descended in another language, and He says we have descended in the English language so you might understand. So what does make special? What does make the Arabic language special that makes it understand it better? And so Imam Ibn Kathir, who's one of the scholars of tafsir, interpretations of the Qur'an, and here as a side note, I would like to point at the fact that the reason why Ibn al-Qayyim said in the quote that we mentioned in the beginning that knowledge is, Allah said, the Prophet ﷺ said, and the Sahabah, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ said, is knowledge. This means that we should never interpret the Qur'an from our own selves, our own experience, our own feelings, but rather we should always go to the tafsir of the Qur'an and see what the scholars have said about what the ayah means. We might read in the Qur'an, أَتَى أَمْرُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَسْتَعْجِلُوا. The matter, you might see in the translation, the matter of Allah came, so don't be hasty. Now you, in your own mind, you start thinking, you might be an angry person by default. So now you start translating and making the interpretation based on your feelings. Oh, so this means that Allah He's going to come, so don't be hasty because you shouldn't be angry because... And everybody, based on how they are and the feelings and their type of personality, they will interpret it in a way or another. So this is why we always should go back to what the tafasir, the tafsirs of the Qur'an, and the scholars say that what this ayah means. You should never open the translation of the Qur'an and say, look, Allah said this here, and then argue with somebody else. No, because Allah said this here, and each of you go back and forth based on your own expectations, instead of saying, no, look, قال Allah, Allah said, قال الرسول, the Prophet ﷺ said, قال الصحابة, i.e. the Sahaba explained that what the Prophet and Allah Azza wa Jal said. That's the correct way of understanding Islam. Very simple example of how to apply this in real life situations. نعم وبالمثال يتضح المقال, as they say in Arabic, in an Arabic proverb. And with an example, the thing that has been said becomes clear. Now, how would that be a hypothetical example? Somebody, for example, the other day actually I was in a masjid in Melbourne. H-I-Y-C, I think. You guys heard of it? H-I-Y-C. So I'm doing wudu. I didn't get involved, but I'm making wudu, and I hear this brother goes to a brother that was making wudu as well. So he goes and says, Assalamu alaikum. The other brother jumps. Why you say salam here? Who told you it's permissible to say salam in the wudu place? The other brother is like, oh brother, it's fine. I just, Assalamu alaikum. He said, okay, can you eat here in the wudu place? They start arguing back and forth because one said salam to the other. How do you apply these foundation of qala Allah, qala Rasul, qala Sahaba? The asl and the default thing is that everything in this world is halal unless there is a proof of it. So nobody in this world should be able to tell you, akhi, this is not permissible. Allah doesn't like this. The first thing that should come to your mind is mad dalil. What is the proof? What is your qala Allah? What is your ayah from the Qur'an? Or what is your qala Rasul? What is your hadith? Or what is your saying of the Sahabah? Or some of the scholars who use these sources to prove a point. So no Muslim should make up their mind. And it's one of those things I remember a long time ago I saw a meme on social media that says, things that feel haram but are not haram. And that's literally a fact. Sometimes you might do something that feels haram and feels impermissible, but it's not impermissible. Like for example, now we traveling, right? Me and my team. We've been praying 2 prayers of rak'at, except for those who have their own opinions, which is fine, it's fiqh, different opinions. But we have been praying 2 rak'ahs for dhuhr and 2 rak'ahs for asr. Now there's been reports that the Sahabah, they did that for 6 months, up to 6 months. Now, and in general, the whole topic in fiqh of traveling is quite extensive. But to say that sometimes you might be doing something that scholars say is fine, rather that the Prophet ﷺ did it, so it's better for you to do. Obviously, if the Prophet ﷺ prayed 2 prayers, who are you to say, no, you know what, I'm going to do 4 prayers. Or you better than the Prophet ﷺ? No, but I just feel like, I don't feel right, man. I'm just going to do 4 prayers because, he's like, yeah, but it is actually from the deen, that you can pray 2 prayers. Or for example, Salat Tarawih is not an obligation. Now you feel bad living in the middle of Salat Tarawih. Like, oh, people looking at you like, look at this guy, he only prayed 2 rak'ahs. Weak. So sometimes there are things that feel impermissible, but are not impermissible. And that happens when you don't have knowledge. In the beginning of your studies, your practice of Islam, and that might be your whole life. Your whole life, you might be at that stage of your beginning of practice. Because every Muslim by default, as soon as you start practicing in Islam, you should incrementally, as you grow older, be learning the language. Be learning the knowledge, sorry. And so some people, most Muslims actually, their whole life, they are at that stage of beginning of practice. So they are always scared. Have you seen people, they just all rigid, all strict. No, brother, no, this is haram. No, brother, that's haram. No, brother, this. It's like, bro, let me breathe, bro. What is your dalil? What is your proof of the Qur'an? They say, no, because I once heard a share, YouTube video, TikTok. That's not knowledge. I need, what is the hadith? What is the ayah from the Qur'an? What is the scholar? The more you learn, the more you realize that not everything is that, white and black, or black and white. And that that Al-Islam is yusr. That Allah wants easiness for you. Now once we realize this, and that was a side note actually to say that why are we understanding, why I don't just go from this ayah, read it in English and move into the next thing or explain it off my mind, is because I have to tell you guys what the scholars said about this ayah. Not what I think that this translation of the Qur'an means. And so Ibn Kathir, he says, لغة العرب أفصح اللغات وأبيانها وأوسعها وأكثرها تأدية للمعاني التي تقوم بالنفوس ولهذا أنزل أشرف الكتب بأشرف اللغات على أشرف الرسل بسفارة أشرف الملائكة وكان ذلك في أشرف بقاع الأرض وابتدأ إنزاله في أشرف شهور السنة وهو رمضان فكمل من كل الوجوه. So Ibn Kathir, he says, the Arabic language is the most eloquent, the clearest, the most expansive, and the best at conveying the meanings that arise in the souls. For this reason, the most noble book was revealed in the most noble language, to the most noble messenger, through the most noble angel, Jibril, in the most noble land, which is Mecca, and it began in the most noble month of the year, Ramadan, perfected in every way. So Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't do anything for no reason. And I want to emphasize this at conveying the meanings of the soul. And from amongst the things that I like how Ibn Kathir explains here, he says that the Arabic language is the best at conveying the meanings that arise in the soul. So if you guys never heard it, and for those who know it, the Arabic language is a language that has more than 12 million vocabulary words. And you know, the average language, like the English language, for words that are not to convey the meanings of what the soul entails, like for example, phone, plate, bottle, pen. You know, most of the times in the average language, that's fine. You know, you have qalam, pen, you know, kursi, chair. That's easy. But in the English language, it's very hard to find in-depth words that you are able to explain the state of the soul in depth. Like Ibn al-Qayyim said with the meanings of love, or the different words for love. Ibn al-Qayyim, he brought more than 10 words on how to, and different levels of love. The love of like just at first sight, as they say. The love as, you know, as being crazy about this significant other, to the point where you cannot live, you stop everything, you can do nothing else except that you think about that person. The love of feeling an itch in your heart. The love of feeling sadness, the love of feeling happiness. A word for each of these stages. Now in English you might say, love at first sight, you know, lust, passion, but still it's not that specific. So when it comes to the Arabic language, the reason why there's so many words is because there are many words that, as we will see right now, if it's still not clear, there are many words that allow you to convey a action, but in more depth. So let's look at this. And before moving forward, this is why Ibn Kathir, he said that Allah Azza wa Jal chose the Arabic language for the Qur'an, is because it's the most eloquent, clear, vast, expensive language. And it only makes sense that if Allah Azza wa Jal is the creator that does everything bil kamal, everything is with perfection, why would he choose the Prophet ﷺ as the best of the mankind, and then Jibreel alayhi salam as the best angel, and the best time of the year in Ramadan, in the best place in earth? But when it comes to the Arabic, when it comes to the language, then just choose something randomly. It's even it is disrespectful to say that Allah Azza wa Jal just did it. Like, what are you going to say? Wal'iyadu billah, he was just vibing. He just said, you know what, I'm going to pick. It's disrespectful. Allah is Al-Hakim, Al-Aziz, is the most wise. He doesn't do anything without purpose. So he chose the Arabic language for that reason. Now, as Al-Imam Fakhru ad-Din al-Razi, he said, لا يجوز أن يتكلم الله تعالى بشيء ولا يعني به شيئا. It is not permissible that Allah, i.e. it is not possible that Allah, the Exalted, should speak, because the Qur'an is the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal, should speak something without intending by it any meaning. Naam, should speak, it is not permissible that Allah should speak something without intending by it any meaning. I don't think the translation is the best thing, but meaning, لا يجوز أن يتكلم الله تعالى بشيء ولا يعني به شيئا آخر أو شيئا. It is not permissible, it is not possible that Allah Azza wa Jal talks about something or with something, i.e. a specific word, specific article, whatever it might be, except that He means something by it. So Alif, Lam, Mim, we cannot say it's just, it was just random letters. No, He meant something. Maybe He didn't tell us the wisdom behind it. But it's not possible that is something that trait of doing something for whatever reason is not an attribute that is befitting to the most wise of creators, which is Allah Azza wa Jal. That's something somebody whose brain is not fool. He just be saying whatever. And that attribute cannot be attributed to Allah Azza wa Jal. That's what Al-Imam Fakhruddin Al-Razi means here. Likewise, Al-Imam Al-Zarkashi, which in his book of Usul al-Fiqh, Usul al-Fiqh is foundational book, or foundational field about rules of fiqh. He gives this rule as well, which is that it is not allowed to say that there is something extra in it except with interpretation, in the Qur'an i.e. Rather, it should be said, the one who sent down the language cannot act without purpose. Now, I'm going to stop here. No need to read the rest, because that's the point that I'm trying to get to, which is Allah Azza wa Jal, He doesn't put even one letter extra in the Qur'an, except that He means by it, and there's a purpose behind it. Now, if that's the case, let's look at this ayah, and through this next part of my explanation, you guys are going to see how much, if you as a Muslim do not intend on learning the Arabic language and thinking that you are fine with the English translation of the Qur'an, and thinking that you are fine pretty much practicing a translated version of your religion, you will see how, from just one example, how that might not quite be, that is definitely not the case. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَوُفِّيَتْ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا عَمِلَتْ وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا يَفْعَلُونَ. So Allah says, and every soul will be repaid in full for what it has done. He knows best what they do. Now I'm going to give you a few seconds for you to read the translation again, let it sink in, and I'm going to randomly ask some of you guys what traits you see here that are revealed in this ayah by Allah Azza wa Jal. What traits, what characteristics that Allah Azza wa Jal might have in attributes from, I don't know, generosity, wisdom, might be whatever it might be that come to mind. You guys read this translation and tell me, after I ask you, what characteristics you see that come appearing to Allah Azza wa Jal from the 99 names or characteristics of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because once you know, and if you don't know someone, and this is as a side note, as a benefit, as a fa'idah, once you know someone well, you either love them more, either are more scared about them, or you are more connected to them. Let me give you an example, right? Let's say you just got a job. Finished uni, got a job, you get to your new job, and you new there, you say, you know what, I'm just gonna chill here, I'm just gonna pick my phone real quick, I'm gonna check my messages. Somebody comes and says, hey, no. Somebody that has been working in the company for 20 years. You say, no, I'm telling you, don't do this, man. I know the boss, I've been here for 20 years. I'm telling you, if he sees you with that phone, you're gone. You're out of this job. You're gonna be like, okay. Now he's working as pretty much the person that's giving you the reminder, right? Which is pretty much what I'm doing to you right now. But he's the one that has knowledge. He knows the boss. He's been here for 20 years. He's been studying the boss for 20 years, so he knows him. That's why he automatically fears him. Now, I'm new into the religion. I'm new into the field of knowledge. I'm new into knowing Allah Azza wa Jal. So I come in, I'm just reckless. I'm ghafil. I'm doing whatever. Picking my phone, picking my nose and I work, doing whatever. I don't know. I'm new here. It's only my third day out here. I don't know. If you guys don't know that meme, it's not going to be funny. So the point is, the more you know someone, the more you love them or are scared about them. And that's the point of Allah Azza wa Jal. The more you get to know Him, the more you are going to love Him, the more you are going to fear Him. Which is the two things that the Muslims should or out of the three things, it's two things out of three things that the Muslim should stick to. First, you worship Allah Azza wa Jal out of love. The more you know about Him, the more you love Him. Then on one side, you are going to have fear of Him. So that's going to, protect you from doing certain sins, which might lead you to kufr, might lead you to disbelieving. And on the other side, you are going to have hope that He is going to forgive you the things that you wasn't able to actually apply. So the Muslim is always on these three things. We can go there, inshallah, we'll figure it out. Don't worry, don't be too fearful. Allah is merciful as well. If you hope too much, you're going to be like, you know what, inshallah, man, let's just go to a nightclub, man, it's fine, Allah will forgive us. That's when you fall too much onto the hope inside. If you're in between fear and love, you are going to be a balanced Muslim, which is the point. You are going to do things out of love for Allah Azza wa Jal and fear Him and hope that He forgives you, which is the best place to be at. Now, have you guys gone over this translation? Now let's start here. What attribute of Allah comes to mind when you read this translation?
That He's all-knowing.
He's all-knowing, okay. Nice. What attribute comes to mind?
The same, all-knowing, as well as it shows to have fear, because He will know everything you do and how you go about it.
Nice. Okay, so basically you're saying the attribute of being the punisher as well. Like He might punish you. So be careful, because He will actually be punish you as well. What attribute would you say that comes to mind? Always be what you do, always will be remembered. Nice. Which is, again, like the brother said, knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal. What attribute comes to mind?
A little bit of generosity, kind of.
Okay, in what angle? What makes you think of that?
Because He's getting like revenge, kind of, if that makes sense.
Okay, you're definitely on the right path. So revenge in one, give me a little bit more. Elaborate what you mean.
So He's saying every soul will be repaid in full for what it was done. So if you harm someone, basically like He punishes the other person that's
The opposite, you mean? Okay. Nice. So He's generous in that aspect. Like He's not going to which I think what you mean is like justice. He will, punish whoever needs to be punished, basically. What will you say, my brother?
It kind of says that He was
Justice. Okay, nice. Okay, what will you say? What characteristic of Allah comes to mind?
Allah being al-Latif, also being
Latif.
it's us, Bani Adams, and yeah.
Jameel. Al-Latif. So al-Lutf. Naam, being kind, basically. Because He wouldn't be kind if He would punish you for something you haven't done, for example, right? Nice. The sisters. I need one. You guys can collaborate. Judge. The most fear judge, right? And the most just. Nice. So justice again, nice. Okay, cool. Now, let's move forward. I looked into, preparing this presentation, I looked into a Qur'an, very widespread Qur'an app, and I looked into the translation of this ayah. So Allah, as you can see in this translation, He says, and every soul will be repaid in full for what he has done. He knows best what they do. And each person will be paid in full for what he did, and he is best aware of what they do. And everyone will be paid in full for what he did, and he knows best what they do. And every soul will be fully compensated for what it did, and he is most knowing of what they do. Every soul will be paid in full for its deeds, as in what he did, for Allah knows best what they have done. And every soul was fully compensated for what he had done, for he knows better what they do. And each soul is paid in full for what it did, and he is best aware of what they do. And to every soul will be paid in full the fruit of his deeds, and Allah knoweth best all they do. Now until here, fine, right? So we see that in the translation, we see that pretty much the same verb is used across all these translations, which is the verb. What is the English verb of do or done or did? Anyone? What is it? What's the verb? Huh? In the English language, what is the verb? To do, right? Right. So he used the same verb. However, who knows how to read Arabic here? Okay, so read to me what you see in bold in Arabic. Okay. Okay, so for those who don't know Arabic, say it again.
Sorry?
Say it again in the mic.
The full words?
Right?
Okay. عملت.
Okay.
يفعلون.
Okay, does this sound like the same verb for those who don't know Arabic? Two different verbs, right? So it's two different verbs as we can see. عملت and يفعلون. عملت is in the past tense. عمل. فعل is in different tense. It's a different verb in the past tense as well. Does it sound like the same? عمل, فعل. It's two different verbs. So now the question, and what I'm trying to, again, so I don't lose you guys, what am I trying to do here, as said in the beginning, through showing you the translation?
English can't handle the different syllables in Arabic.
English cannot handle Arabic as a whole. English cannot handle Arabic. And so Allah Azza wa Jal uses two different verbs here. And as we said earlier, the scholars say that it is not permissible that Allah Azza wa Jal, i.e. it's not possible that Allah Azza wa Jal speaks something without intending by it any meaning. It doesn't happen in the Qur'an. If Allah Azza wa Jal uses two verbs, it's for a reason. If Allah uses two different verbs, it's for a reason. Now, can you tell me what the reason is reading this translation? Can you tell me what the reason of Allah using two verbs through this translation? Do you see it linguistically by just reading it? Why do you think Allah would use amilat in the first part, and each person will be paid in full for what? Amilat? And he is best aware of what they do, as in yaf'alun.
In the different translations, like sometimes the first section, the first clause, is a little bit more like they'll have the fruits of their labor. Can I go on a different tangent as well?
Sure.
Like amal is also like work as well.
Work, okay.
Like if you go and you do work, that's amal. And then yaf'alun, that's like physical actions, like verbs.
Physical actions, okay.
The second part is like the actions they do. The first part is like what they've worked for.
Okay. But according to what you're saying, what if I say, well, the first part, it could be physical as well. You could kill somebody without intending by driving. So now what is the issue? I mean, that is an issue, right? That was a good ijtihad though, a good thought that you had. Can the sisters see why Allah used two different verbs? Can you see it?
It's about how they did it and why they did it. So, why they did it. If they did it by accident, it wouldn't be pushed onto them. But if they did it purposely and with intent, then it goes in.
Sharp. That's nice. Okay, so let's look at the answer. So as you can see, I want to emphasize again, I looked into 8 different translations, and the translation was just given like this, right? Average, did, done. However, if we actually look at what it actually means in Arabic, amila and fa'ala, and now you read the ayah and take a moment to understand what is being said, and see how different it is now. And see how many attributes and characteristics of Allah now become more apparent. How is it different now than what you read earlier?
So when He does give us the full, like the justice, He will only give it to the things that we intentionally did.
Okay.
But He knows everything, whether we did intentionally or unintentionally.
Nice. So what you do intentionally, that's the only thing He will punish you for. So raise your hand if now it's like, oh wow, now it's a little bit more clear. It's a little bit more clear. Do you appreciate Allah better reading this like this? Now this, I actually wrote it. Like He did intentionally only, and whether it was intentional or unintentional, I'm the one that added this. And before, all the other translations, they just give it to you like this. If you go to Qur'an.com, the translations give you this. Now, through this, I want to show you how, through the translation of the Qur'an, the English translation, as you guys agreed, you appreciate less what Allah Azza wa Jal is conveying to you. And the reason is because, as we said in the beginning, you are receiving a diluted version through the translation. And with all the other examples that we had before, when you don't get it with the actual meaning, like the source and pure, true meaning, it comes to you in a different manner. A little bit diluted, a little bit like surface level, generic, which is like here again. Get the translation. Yalla, next one. It's like you're not really feeling it. And so when you know Arabic, in Arabic it's quite obvious that fa'ala, once you learn it, fa'ala means that you just do it. You know, I might be here and khalas, fa'alt hada, I slapped somebody, fa'altuhu. But if I amiltuhu, I have done it intentionally, just like as most of you, I'm pretty sure, memorized here. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا وَعَمِلُوا and have done righteous deeds. So when you do righteous deeds intentionally, that's when Allah Azza wa Jal is, rewarding you or not rewarding you, whether it's good or bad. Now here we see, what do we lose in this? Just an example of what we are losing if we don't understand the Arabic language. Naam. I see that I see some of your faces yawning and so on. You guys want to take a break? Or shall we go into how to, like the practicalities of how to actually learn the Arabic language while you are in uni? What are you saying? Raise your hand if you want to take a quick 10-minute break. No breaks? MashaAllah. Yeah, Aura, don't say that. Yeah, Aura, don't say that you guys don't want to break. Tamam, khalas, let's then go into, what was can you remind me the topic of today again? How to make the best years of uni? Okay.
During university years,
Tamam. So now hopefully that we got to the point of like realizing like, wow, so Arabic is not just a field of knowledge that will be nice to have. It's actually, you know, the real deal as a Muslim, and why Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, said that is an obligation, and why Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, let me actually go to the beginning. Why Imam al-Shafi'i, he said that the companions of the Arabic language, i.e. those who put effort into learning the Arabic language, are like jinn. They see what others don't. So you might read, yeah, what Allah did, He will reward you, and He knows what you do. Now if you know the Arabic language, you understand Allah will reward you what you did intentionally, whether it was good or bad. And He knows what you did, whether it's intentional or intentional. That's when you understand Arabic. This is why Imam Shafi'i, as you guys can see, said that they see and perceive, i.e. understand and grasp what others don't, because you understand the Arabic language. Likewise, Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he says, only one who knows the speech of the Arabs, i.e. the Arabic language, has mastered Arabic and is well versed in the science of rhetoric, i.e. bayan and eloquence, can truly understand its merit. Only these people who learn the Arabic language can truly understand what the Qur'an really is, what it encompasses from eloquence and clarity and diverse forms of expression. And if he does so, he will indeed witness astonishing marvels. Just like this little example that I showed you earlier. Imagine that same concept of the translation and what's lost in translation. Imagine it throughout the whole Qur'an. 600 and so pages. How much can be lost? How generic can you actually feel? And that's why you will see scholars, shuyukh, imams, speakers, it's so easy for them to practice Islam. Why is it so easy for them? It's because they understand it differently. They come across the verbs in a different way because they have learned the Arabic language. They understand these sources through the actual pure meanings. That's what allows them to change. It's not that they are better or these, or they come from a family, or it's never that. It's that they understand better. So the person that will be more practicing of Islam, closer to Allah, the only thing that's going to allow him to get there is that he understands more of the religion of Islam. He understands and knows Allah Azza wa Jal better than the person that is not practicing, or that is practicing but is struggling and still struggling with things very basic like prayers, for example. Tamam. So Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he says this. He says that only those truly see the merit. And that is why, and what we were saying right now, Ibn Taymiyyah here, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he was called the Shaykh of Islam. The Shaykh of Islam, because of his amazing works. He was so focused all his life in seeking knowledge of Islam that he even forgot to even get married. If he was awake, he was studying or putting effort towards this knowledge of Islam, which we said in the beginning is قال Allah, Allah said, قال الرسول, the Prophet ﷺ said, وقال الصحابة, and the Sahaba, companions of the Prophet ﷺ said. So he said that accustoming yourself, i.e. getting used to the Arabic language as one of your languages, speaking it and so on, affects your mind, affects your character and the religion, i.e. your level of religion, in a deep and powerful effect. It also brings about resemblance to the early generations of this ummah. And now, as we said in the beginning, you guys remember when I was telling you about the first generations and how those were the best generations according to what the Prophet ﷺ said, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. This is why this scholar right here, he says, and he's put in praise in resembling and looking like, acting like, speaking like, living your life like the early generations of Muslims, of this ummah. which is the companions and the tabi'een, i.e. those who came in the 100 years after. And that resemblance alone increases your mind, your religion, and your character. Now, why do you guys think I wear like this, and I wear this modest clothes, and I let my beard grow, and I cover my head with a kufi, and I'm here? I pretty much left my whole family, 5 children all in the house, to come here and call and remind people about the religion of Islam, learn the Arabic language, and so on. Why did I flip my whole life and sacrifice that many things? It is because I want to resemble in what I prioritize in my life, in how I dress, how I look. Anything that I do, I want it to be like the first generations of Islam, because the Prophet ﷺ said these are the best generations. Now, the average person nowadays, they will come and they will say, brother, we are in 2025, come on, man. Just wear like a regular person, cut your beard, and they will try little by little, try and just not make you look like those times. That's medieval, what do they call it? Medieval times, that's old times, that's the dinosaurs times. Come on, man, we're in 2025 and so on. But a Muslim needs to understand that it doesn't matter we're in 2025, 2030, 2057, 3000. The best generations will always be until we all die, until Yawm al-Qiyamah, those generations. The generations of the Prophet ﷺ, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Tabi'een. So resembling them and putting an effort to do so is the best thing and the best type of lifestyle you can live. And so hence why Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he said that learning the Arabic language will allow you to do that. Resemble those first generations. Okay, what we're going to do right now, I'm not going to lie, I'm sitting here, I'm smelling the pizza. It's distracting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes. And I'm actually going to put a countdown timer. I'm going to let you go and refresh yourself, put some water on your face, refreshing. So then we can come back and talk about the actual practicality. Okay, but how do I start? How this big... So, how to learn the Arabic language? Now, actually, first of all, so we can get a little bit inspired by one of our students. Let me just quickly search up, which, by the way, after today, when you guys go home, you guys can actually watch this. If you go to YouTube and type how to learn Arabic from scratch, and you scroll down to this video right here, how to learn Arabic from scratch, after you see my face. Oh, there's no audio? Oh, wow.
أنا يعني 80 years old. And now people call me.
The Arabic guy, yeah? The Arabic guy.
It was a struggle to figure things out, so let me take you to the beginning. Where's my mic? Beginning of the story. Okay. So I want to show you guys the story of Ben. Ben is one of our students. He's just one example out of hundreds of students, or just one example out of thousands of students who are part of our institute.
In Arabic, that's earlier.
Now Ben, he's from here, from Australia.
Ben, I'm from Australia.
Ben is from here, from Australia. I think he's from Perth. Actually, can you reach out to him, so we can make sure? We have been saying throughout the whole tour, I don't know where Ben is from, but he's an Australian brother. Then he joined our program as he will say right now, he was learning, he was at 0 in terms of level, and then I will show you guys how he learned. This was about 6 months, and I want to start by this because most of the times, it doesn't matter what somebody tells you how to do it like this, do it like that, that if you have limiting beliefs in your mind that you are not capable of doing it, or maybe you don't memorize well, or it's too difficult, whatever it might be, if that's the case, then you'll probably not even try from the beginning. So in order for us to fix those type of limiting beliefs, if there are any, I want to show you an actual, real situation, which is Ben.
Earlier, and I would like to learn Arabic, and my specific goals is so that I can read Qur'an, understand the language, and communicate with other people in the masjid. Because maybe people look at me, they always expect I can speak Arabic. This is not the case. It's hard. I know I can say this, but I know I can get it right.
Here's a side note, you can see already that he had the right mindset, which shows how important the mindset is. Here he was at 0. However, he's already saying, I know I can say this, but I know I can achieve it. So mindset is very important.
Right, my current understanding. If 0, it says 1 to 10, I think if 0 is the case, 0 is the position, give myself a 0, 0, 0, give myself a 0.
حدثني عن ما فعلت في يومك إما اليوم أو إما أمس. نعم دقيقة واحدة.
So here I'm asking him, this was a random test after he had passed 16 lessons. 6 months later, I tested him and I was asking him, explain to me what you did yesterday in Arabic from the top of your head.
اليوم استيقظت لصلاة الفجر. بعد أصلي صلاة الفجر رجعت إلى النوم. استيقظت مرة أخرى وتناولت فطور مع عائلتي. الآن أنا في عزلتي مع عائلتي، أمي وأبي وأختين أيضا. أكلت فاكهة وبعد تناولنا فطور مع بعدين ذهبنا إلى شاطئ و سباحنا. نعم.
You are the first student I'm testing, so I'm like, wait, is this something about Ben only?
No, it's definitely not just me. I'm telling you, it's definitely not just me. Before lesson 10, I was very scared to go, I was still on lesson 11, lesson 12, I was very scared to go to 10 to 30, because there's people in 1 to 10, and I was speaking all numeric, they were speaking very, very at an advanced level. I'm like, well, they're speaking like this at 1 to 10. Well, in the other lessons, you got the progress videos. I love looking back at this because literally 6 months ago, I was setting up the alphabet and I'm reading these 3-letter words and I'm 1 letter at a time and I'm just I can't believe this was me in literally just May. That was me in May, and then now alhamdulillah, I can form some sentences. So it's a good feeling.
And from there,
so here, as you guys can see, Ben, he started from 0. He's from Sydney, okay. So hopefully you're going to see him in Sydney then. So Ben, he started from 0, Australian. He doesn't have no Arab background. Just to show you guys that it is possible. But you have to take the right approach and use a method that works, which is what we're about to see right now. Now, as we said earlier, nothing should come from whatever I think, but rather the scholars in the early generations have already told us how to go about everything in life. How to live your life, how to speak, how to behave, and amongst those things, how to learn the Arabic language. So Ibn Faris, who is one of the scholars of the Arabic language, he says that the knowledge of Arabic has both a root and a branch. As for the branch, it is the knowledge of names and attributes such as, I was saying, man, horse, tall, short. This is what one begins with when learning. As for the root, it concerns the origin and precedence of language, then the customs of the Arabs in their speech, and the ways in which they employ literal and metaphorical usage. I.e., in simple terms, when you want to learn a language, it doesn't matter which language it is, they all work the same way. What you start with is vocabulary. Horse, tall, beautiful, small, fast, slow, etc., etc. Then he says, then there is an actual root for it, which is the customs of the Arabs, in this case, in their speech, and the ways in which they employ literal and metaphorical usage. So first you learn the words, and then you learn how to use them in different ways. I'll give you an example in English. 10 years ago, I didn't even know English, by the way. I learned English from scratch as well. And I speak 5 other languages. So when it comes to learning languages, I can tell you one thing or two about them. Now, a very good example that I like is, in English, for example, in what the scholar means here about the customs of the Arabs and their speech and the ways in which they employ, is, for example, the verb run. What does it mean in English to run? Run? Why did I point at you? You go like, you boy. Run. What does run mean? Right, to run, right? Okay, but what if I say I'm running my business? Like I'm actually managing my business. Okay, what if I ran out of money? You understand it though, right? Is it the same verb? Right? Okay, what if I run it up? It's time to run it up, man. It's early in the morning, let's run it up. What does it mean? Okay, let's ask somebody from New York. What does run it up mean? Yo, I gotta run it up, man. Them pockets, a little dry. You gotta make money. Okay. Tomorrow we're playing basketball, I'm gonna run on you. All night long. I'm gonna be running on you. But you guys see, right? You guys get the point. One verb, according to the customs of the people, it might mean something else. So first you learn the vocabulary, and then you learn how they use it in different contexts. That's how you learn a language in short, in very short. So, another scholar, Ibn Sida here, he explains that language is not limited to Arabic alone. As in, what he means here, the translation is a little ChatGPT-ish. What he means is that linguistics and the art of learning language is not limited to Arabic alone. Rather, it is a universal concept that applies to all languages. It is of 2 types. The first is the memorization of words and expressions. And the second is knowledge of the laws that govern those words. Yani the laws as in, if we say it in this context and I'm broke and I say I need to run it up, I mean that I need to make money. If I'm talking about the context of business and I say I'm running my business, I mean that I am actually, being busy, running the operations of the business, etc., etc. That's the laws of those words that governs them. Ibn Sida was the first to use term linguistics, al-lisaniyat, as found in the introduction to his book Al-Muhkam. This is actually Ibn Khaldun who said the first 3 lines, not Ibn Sida. The first 3 lines was Ibn Khaldun, who was a scholar from Tunis who spent time in Al-Andalusi in Spain. Ibn Sida as well, he's known as Ibn Sida Al-Andalusi from the time of Al-Andalus. The point is, this is how you learn languages. And so, a lot of people make the mistake when they come to learn, when they want to learn the Arabic language, is they focus on grammar first, for some reason. And a wise man once said, while without grammar, little can be conveyed, without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed. While without grammar, little can be conveyed, without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed. What does this mean? Without grammar, little can be conveyed. Without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed. How would you explain this? I'm looking at you, Akhi. Yes.
Like without grammar, you can just speak some words like life or food or something like that, point to things, and then maybe the other person gets the gist of the message.
Right.
Without knowing any words, you can't like convey any sort of message.
Exactly. So what if I don't, how would you say without grammar, excuse me, may you direct me or point me toward the restroom? How would you say that without grammar?
Toilet. Toilet.
Exactly. And you can convey pretty much the meaning.
I can even say like where toilet or where toilet.
Exactly. So the point is that a lot of people, when they start learning a language, they don't even speak the language yet. They don't even know how to say sky, car, and they already want to know, okay, how do I know if a word is talibun or talibin or taliban or dhahaba ila or dhahaba min? And they want to learn all of these technicalities without even having built vocabulary first. And so that is definitely not the way, because while without grammar, little can be conveyed. You know, you can say, me want toilet. Me, or my father-in-law saying, don't ever call me again. To be honest, I kind of know what he meant, but there was no grammar, no eloquence, no tonality, he just said whatever he knew from the English language. But without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed. You cannot say anything. So in very brief, in order for you to learn a language, in this case the Arabic language, and I will show you here four steps. And actually I will just show you one level actually, because the first level is going to be the simplest one, and then the next level is just a little bit more of what the first level contains, and then like that is how you build. But as you can see, it will be based on memorization of vocabulary words. So as you can see here, memorize 500 words, 500 Arabic root words, handle basic everyday interaction with memorized phrases, reduce language switching, i.e. don't go too much into English. This is like the goal, not like what you should do. Like you're going to get to a point where you're going to, if you get to A1 level, you're going to get to switching less to the language, and then you're going to be able to speak at 20 to 40 words per minute, and then read at below 30 words per minute. And so the key skills to build in the first stage is to know how to greet people and introduce yourself. Again, with what we said, memorize expressions and vocabulary. So, hello, my name is, what's your name? I am from, I come here for, and like that. You memorize those phrases. Then you are going to be able to ask and answer simple personal questions. What's your name? Masmuk. Kam umruk. Nationality. Ma jinsiyatuk. Kayfa haluk. Now then you are going to be able to talk about family, daily routines. Do you guys see my cursor? Talk about family, daily routines, weather, and basic likes and dislikes. Now, more advanced into this level, you start being able to talk about your daily routines, which is the level that I show you that Ben was at. That's just the first level that he was at. That was the first 6 months, which he could have done quicker, but he just did it in 6 months. And so there, he's able to talk about his daily routines, you know, the weather. He was saying how how he was in holiday and he went to swim with his mom and sister and so on. And all of that, he said it from the top of his head. He wasn't reading from anywhere, obviously. Recognize and read short text with harakat, vowel marks. Follow very simple instructions and announcements, like ukhruj, leave. Udkhul, come in. You know, هذا درسنا, this is our lesson. And so this is the first level. And as you can see, the second level is pretty much the same thing, but a little bit more advanced. Here you start talking about interest topics, you have memorized more words, and you're speaking at 40 to 60 words per minute. Give and follow simple directions, use present, past, and basic future tense verbs, describe people and things using adjectives. And then you keep on progressing until you get to what I would say the sweet spot, which is having 4,000 root words, confidently constructing near perfect sentences, comprehend complex Islamic lectures and tafsir, speak at 90 to 120 words per minute, follow and contribute to discussions on religion, which is now a more dense topic, understand khutbahs, tafsir explanations, Islamic lectures, express and defend opinions, etc., etc., which is when you are comfortable with the language. Now, before I go into actually breaking down how to do this, I want to see where your mind is at. So what questions do you have on now? Okay, how do I achieve these goals? Okay, these are the goals and the targets. How do I achieve them? Anybody has a question about these that arise after seeing these goals? For that.
So on average, how long would it take someone to get to this level?
Okay, on average, how long would it take? I keep that question in the back of my mind. What about you?
When it comes to getting the root words, what resources do we use to find them?
When it comes to getting the root words, what resources do we use? And the methods, I guess. Sah? Okay, so I'll keep that in my mind. Anything else? Okay, perfect. So let's get into a real life example. Now, let me try and get let me just log in real quick. So as we said earlier, you need to learn things based on context, right? Because, okay, some people might say, well, I just need to, if that's the case, that the goal is to have, you know, a certain amount of vocabulary words, I'm just going to go and take the dictionary and just memorize it. Somebody might say that, right? But what if now you start learning the language and you learn that the word run means to run. But then you go in the street, oh, I have a new word now, I'm learning English. I know run, which means to run. Then somebody comes to you and say, yo, bro, it's looking tough for you, man. You got to run it up. Can I run? I know run, but the way he's saying it, I don't understand how. Then you go into a business and ask for the director, and he say, I run this business. And then you're like, wait. I do know run, but I don't understand what he means by run this business. And then somebody says, oh, I ran out of money. Can you lend me $1? You say, well, I know run and ran, but I don't get what he means by that. And so here we see that learning vocabulary through context was important. Now here, you guys can see Kashf al-Mufradat, a text of Kashf al-Mufradat, which is our curriculum at our institute. Now, how would I go about, starting? This is the first lesson. How would I go about starting and learning this lesson? So what we do is I want to learn all of these vocabulary words, and then I want to start memorizing and understand what it means. So let's do a very simple test. Here we have this text that says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And somebody else says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, who here doesn't know what Assalamu alaikum means? Everybody knows here, right? So, okay, you're already one step ahead of this page. So let's go into the one that we don't know, which is, Kayfa haluka ya akhi. Who doesn't know what kayfa haluka means here? Or who knows what kayfa haluka means? Okay, kayfa haluka ya akhi. So you are already step ahead of this page. What does ya akhi mean? انت زول ما فيهاش لا سهل عليك صح ولا لا؟ So you know that's another point, which is if you come from an Arab background, this is going to be already part of your day-to-day speech. So you're already a step ahead. You know, so now we are a step ahead. Who knows what ya akhi means here? Ya akhi? Okay, ya akhi. So now we have our sister over there who didn't you raise your voice because you don't know what ya akhi means? So ya akhi, and I'm going to teach it to you right now, means my brother. Hey, my brother, ya akhi. All right, so now what you would do, my sister, is take a notebook or take, for example, what our students use, which is the vocabulary wallet, which is something that looks like this. Okay, vocabulary wallet. What is it? Is the vocabulary wallet is crucial notebook in our Arabic course. Here's how you should go about. It's organized in 3 main categories: nouns, verbs, and expressions. Every time you learn a new word, write it down in the relevant section. So what you would do is you will come here and you will write down. What will you write down, my sister? Ya akhi, which means my brother. Okay, so you write it down just as such. Okay. And you write it down like this. Okay, I just learned, today we just learned Ya akhi, my brother. You write it down in your Mahfadat al-Mufradat. Aina, where? But in your case it will be Ya akhi, my brother. Perfect. So now we continue in this text. So who doesn't know what Alhamdulillah means? I'm pretty sure nobody. I mean, everybody knows it. Ana bi khair. Who knows what ana bi khair means? Okay. Ana bi khair. So we all know what ana bi khair means. So you guys pretty much passed this whole lesson. Alhamdulillah, ana aydan bi khair. Who knows what aydan means? Okay, so now, in your case, you come across a new word, aydan. Aydan means as well. So you go ahead and do what? What will you do now? Go into the vocabulary wallet, and go ahead and write the next word. Now write the next word in your vocabulary wallet. And so that's what you do. Then marhaban bika. Who knows what marhaban bika means? Welcome. Huh? So whoever doesn't know what marhaban bika means, you take that sentence, you go ahead and write it again in your vocabulary wallet, which is going to be, as I've shown you, your vocabulary wallet here. Now this is very simple. As we seen in the beginning, what you need is vocabulary. So any expression, any new word, whatever it might be, you write it down, and then you do your own due diligence in making sure that the next lesson, you know it, that you have memorized it. So now, let's do a test. What does aydan, we said it means? Aydan? Aydan? As well. Okay, so now that's what the benefit of being in a class. I got stuck. Okay, he said it. Okay, now I won't forget it again. Now what does ya akhi, we said it means? My brother. So I'll write it down, I memorize it, I make sure next time I come across, whether somebody tells me it, whether I read it, whether I hear it, I know what it means. And that is how you learn the language. As simple as it seems, this is the first lesson. It's that simple. It might not be easy because you have to do it over and over and over. And look, to give you an example, this is the first lesson, right? As you can see, everything is, well, actually we just started doing this later on. But I will show you an example here of the later on lessons. So here, for example, what you see read at this stage, which is lesson 13, the student doesn't know the words that are read. And whatever is blue is new expressions, new sentences that need to be memorized. As for the rest, عليك أن تستخدمي الحاسوب للعمل أو الدراسة فقط ولا شبكة. Everything that's black, the student has already learned it here. So when he gets to lesson 13, he already knows this. And now he just needs to focus on the new words, which are the red ones. And then what happens? You continue lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson. You get to the later on lessons. We jump from 13 all the way to lesson 28. Now look how many words he knows here. Everything that's black, now he knows it. So the student obviously here has already enough vocabulary to be able to speak. Now, so that's in simple terms what you need to do in order to learn the Arabic language. Now, to go to your questions first, how long would it take you to do this? Well, how long would it take you to memorize the words? You know? And how long would it take you to go over all of these lessons? It really depends on the person, how much he puts in. Now, the average human capacity or human capability is that on average it would take about 500 to 700 hours put in, according to experts, in the language, in order for him to achieve B2 level, which is the end of the four levels that I showed earlier, which are these ones. So to get to 1, 2, 3, and 4, to get to here and memorize 4,000 words, etc., etc., they say on average it takes you 500 to 700 hours put in, i.e. in 2 years. If you can do it in 2 years and put 700 hours because you have spent 6 hours a day, or do it in 1 year because you have spent 6 hours a day studying the Arabic language, then that's how fast you're going to get. If not, and you just are able to do 1 hour a week, then it might take you 3 years, 4 years. So it really depends on how much you put in. That's how much you're going to get out. And of course, in your ability to memorize, in your ability to recall, and your ability especially to hold yourself from eating pizza before learning, so you can be sharp. And the good habits, right? Good habits like what? Okay, so if I know that now my vocabulary wallet is all the vocabulary and knowledge that I need in order to get better at Arabic, and I have 50, 100, 150 words in my vocabulary wallet, now when I'm going to be outside and I'm going to be memorizing, or I'm going to be waiting for the bus, or I'm going to be on my way to uni, or I'm going to be on my way back from uni, I will have my vocabulary wallet with me instead of having Instagram or TikTok. Scrolling through Instagram or TikTok while I'm going back home or coming to school. And so it depends on habits, how many good habits you have, how fast are you at memorizing based on how much energy you have, how much you sleep, how well you sleep because you're not stuck on social media before going to sleep, and how free you are from distractions in life. So it's a bigger picture of how fast it would take. But if we're talking on averages and how much it takes somebody, then they say between 500 to 700 hours put in. If you want to look at this a little bit more technical, you would say, okay, so if I have to spend 700 hours to get to B2 level, so if I only have, let's say, 1 hour a day, okay, and I am doing this 5 times a week, times 4, which is a month, so 20 hours a month. So if I do that for a year, 20 times 12, that's 240 hours. Only if I do 1 hour a day for 5 days a week. So in order for me to get to 700 hours, it would take me 2.3 years. I mean 2.9 years. Oh, my laptop just died, man. 2.9 years. And so that's how long it would take you. I will show you what is the path that students at our institute, which is an institute that I've been working on for close to 7 years now. So I've thought of everything and changed it multiple times. We are on the 4th version of the institute right now, so it's thought out and it's been changed over and over to make sure that it applies this path. Now the student, once he joins the platform, he has a curriculum. And as you can see here, there are 74 lessons. 5 levels. And so the goal is to complete the whole thing. Now he starts with reading, obviously, if he doesn't know how to read. And then there is the A1, A2, B1, B2 levels, which are these ones that I show you here. Right? So A1 would be acquiring the 500 Arabic root words, getting to greet people and introduce oneself, ask and answer simple questions, personal questions, talk about family, daily routines, understand and use basic pronouns, etc., etc. Last stage would be memorize 4,000 root words, confidently construct near perfect sentences, comprehend complex Islamic lectures, tafsir. That's what you want to get at, which is the level that allows you to, again, understand khutbahs and tafsir explanations, Islamic lectures, and pretty much start applying the reason why a Muslim would learn the Arabic language. Right? So that's the goal. Now the practicality in how this happens is that the student comes here, he goes into the level he is on right now, and then there's going to be a set of lessons that he will have to watch. So in this case, this lesson is getting to know each other. That's the title of the lesson. So in this lesson, the text is lesson number 2. So as you can see, the text here will be about at-ta'aruf, which means getting to know each other. So the text says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, kayfa haluk, how are you doing? Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, how are you doing? I am well, thank you. What's your name? My name is Hamza wa ant. And what is your name? My name is Anas. Where are you from? I am from Spain. I am from Britain. What do you do here? I study in university. Until next time, see you later. Until next time, Hamza. So this is pretty much where you start from. Now, how do you get to being able to learn this? So first, your teacher, in this case, it would be me, or if you want to replicate this with another teacher, you just tell him, this is the curriculum I want to go over. So the teacher, what he should do is go over the text, and as you can see here, stop at every sentence, every word, every expression, and explain it to you, what it means, basically. And then your expression book should start looking like this, or your notebook, from the very first lesson. You know, I have written down kayfa haluk, how are you? I have written down ya akhi, oh my brother. I have written down ya ukhti. I have written down ana bi khair, I'm well. Ana bi khair aydan, I am good as well. And so I write this down, and I make sure that before I move into the next lesson, I have mastered these expressions and these words. Now what you should do is you should have your teacher test you before moving into the next lesson and remind you and put you to the test. Now the way how students do it, in this case, is they book a call with their instructor. Here I have this dummy account is connected to a female instructor, but students would have brothers as instructors, and sisters, they will have sisters as instructors. And so here, as you can see, I will come here, I will book a call with Ustada Sarah or Ustada Fatima, and she will go ahead and test me on this. So she will make me do role play. You know, okay, I am Hamza and you are Anas. And then, she's going to make you translate the word. She's going to make you translate the text. It's going to make you recall some of the nouns, tell me the plural, etc., etc. Then if the instructor, after he has tested you, he thinks that you are good to go to the next lesson, you go and move to the next lesson. If the instructor, which he should keep it real with you, you're not good for the next lesson, then you continue to revise and memorize these words. What does أيضا mean, أخي? As well. Okay, so if the teacher sees that you are not able to recall it, he's going to say, nah, you got to go back and revise it. And you should be self-accountable anyways with yourself. If you know that you're still, shaky on certain words and so on, then you should go back and revise it. But the point is to get to a point where if you keep doing this over and over and over and over, not overcomplicating anything. Don't think of technicalities. What does this, that? What does, the grammar rules? Why is this, that? Start with these first, as Ibn Faris said, and then you're going to get to a point where it's going to look like this. And as we said, what's black is what the student already knows. And what's red is what's new. And this is pretty much the last lesson. And as you can see here, if you are able to read these texts, khalas, you know Arabic obviously. And now it's just about increasing your vocabulary dictionary, your mental vocabulary dictionary. So that's how it should be. And then, like I said, you should have, your own type of study time where you revise your words and so on. Now, in this case, it would look something like, if there's an actual system, it would be good to have actual exercises that have been prepared, like assignments, like this one, for example. That looks something like this, so you can recall vocabulary and so on. What does aina mean in English? What is it? Where? How can you correctly say they are my sisters? Okay, so if you start from here, if you start from the right, what is it, Huma? I'm going to go with Mubin's answer. Then, Ikhwati, Akhawati, Ukhti. Ikhwati? My sisters, huh? Okay. Correct. And so that's the point, right? That there's different types of practice, audio, and then an instructor actually goes over what you have done and what you have answered. So for example, if he sees you have made a mistake with, they are my sisters, on the call and after the call, he will send you an actual video and tell you have made a mistake here, make sure you don't make this mistake and so on. And then he will remember, because you have one assigned instructor, the next time, right? So as you can see here, this hypothetically my assigned instructor. Obviously brothers are not with female instructors, but this obviously I built this, so this is why I'm using a dummy account. And so that's the point. As simple as that. You want to acquire as much vocabulary as possible, as we said, right? As Ibn Faris said, the knowledge of Arabic has both a root and a branch. As for the branch is the knowledge of names and attributes, such as I was saying, man, horse, tall, short. This is what one begins with learning. As for the root, it concerns to the origin of precedents of language, the customs of the Arabs, the speech, the ways in which they deploy literal and metaphorical usage. Which the second part will be with your teacher. When you're speaking to your teacher, after you have memorized words and you put them in correct ways, then he's going to fix those. And it's going to be your job to remember on the spot. Write notes, obviously, revise, etc., etc. And you continue to do this. And that is how Ben, as I showed you earlier, in 6 months he was able to go from zero, from not being able to speak, to being able to then speak. Tamam? So now I broke down. I want to see where your minds are at. Does anybody have a question on any of these parts? And do you see the path? Once you see the path, it's like, okay, I get it now. I see how I could get there. Is there any question on this? For the
If we can't find an tutor and we're not in a position to have that commitment with the tutor, for personal study, there are books that go through like the basics, which is like the very basic, like man, horse, tall, short, and then it goes through some sentences. But when it comes to stuff that comes later that's a little bit more complex, that you can only really get from reading a book, are there any books that kind of have the Arabic and then the English like side by side for you to learn on your own without needing it or somewhat having somewhat the benefits of a teacher?
Well, I can tell you there, I'm pretty sure you can find a teacher. If it's not on soil here in Adelaide, you can find somebody online. But you need to know that there's a principle in seeking knowledge. Arabic language is seeking knowledge. And as scholars say, is bitalaqi. Just like Jibril alayhi salam taught the Qur'an to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is, last time I translated this in English, I said from mouth to mouth, and somebody said pause. So I don't know how to translate bitalaqi. Yeah, live interacting, right? So face to face or like live interaction, basically, right? The point is you need feedback. It doesn't even have to be live. It can be asynchronous, like you, for example, send an audio or a video of you speaking, whatever it might be, and then the teacher corrects you. That's fine as well. Or you send an audio on WhatsApp and then he tells you, you shouldn't say this like this, you shouldn't say that like that. Okay, so that's what's important to know, is that, as they say, al-ilmu la yu'khadhu min butun al-kutub. Knowledge is not taken from the stomachs, literally translated, of the books, but rather is bit-talaqi, is from taking it from a sheikh, from a teacher. Because the teacher, there's so much benefit. You can benefit from the teacher in many different ways, especially if it's somebody who is using the Arabic language to get closer to Allah. You can benefit from his level of practice of al-Islam and love for Allah Azza wa Jalla, love for His Prophet. And so, one thing that I wanted to touch on is, now you might say, yeah, but with my studies at university and so on, I don't know how I will do this. The point is that the early generations of Muslims, which is, as we said earlier, those who we are trying to look like, they prioritize knowledge over everything. As we said in the beginning, Ibn Qudamah, he said, وَكَانَ السَّلَفُ يُؤْثِرُونَ الْعِلْمَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And the Salaf, the predecessors, righteous predecessors, scholars from before, from amongst the Sahabah and the Tabi'un, those who followed and so on, they used to prioritize knowledge over everything. It's fine for you to do a university degree and for you to get a particular career later on and so on, but you need to understand that you have certain obligations as a Muslim human being. And from amongst those obligations is to become more knowledgeable of Al-Islam. And one of those things that will allow you to be more knowledgeable of Al-Islam with the true knowledge, as we have seen how much you can lose through relying on translations, and let alone relying on, TikTok classes and TikTok clips and YouTube lessons and so on, which they could be very beneficial YouTube lessons, by the way. But the point is that you should always make it part of your life. Because the early generations that we want to resemble, they made it part of their lives. Like for example, when the Prophet ﷺ was alive, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he was still doing business. Yet he found time to go and learn from the Prophet ﷺ. So it shows that it's fine if you have responsibilities. You know, you're going to have work, you're going to have family, you're going to have studies, a career, whatever it might be. However, he still found time to sit with the Prophet ﷺ and listen his ahadith and learn it and then apply it and so on. So the point is that you can accomplish this goal. The goal now is simple. Okay, for me to get to B2 level, I just need to make sure that I go over all of this curriculum. For example, if it's Kashf al-Mufradat, it's 70 lessons. If you do one lesson a week, amazing. You cannot do one lesson a week, you can only do 2 lessons, or 1 lesson every 2 weeks, amazing. The point is, okay, I finished my uni studies, let me get home, half an hour, check what my, have a schedule with my instructor. Or if you join Al-Andalusi Institute, then that's even better because you have already the system put in place for you. And it's just about you plugging yourself into the system and making sure you stick to it. That's how Ben did it. That's how Tierno himself, right here, he was the 5th student at our institute. He was studying at university and he went over the program and learned the Arabic language that way. And so it is possible, but it's about knowing how to achieve it and then making sure that you have the right habits and that you are somebody who is disciplined and that you're somebody that don't get distracted by bad habits or become less efficient with bad habits. Like for example, eating pizza before listening to I don't know how many hours lecture, or going on your phone right before sleeping, and then next thing you know, you spend on your phone 4 hours and then you have the excuse that you cannot learn the Arabic language because you're too tired throughout the day and you have things to do. Ya akhi, you sleep in 2 hours after you spend 4 hours before going to sleep on Instagram. Of course, you are not going to be able to have time throughout the day and you're going to be tired. So that is amongst the most important things, which is becoming a disciplined Muslim and being able to resist impulses of wasting time on your phone, impulses of going out with your friends when you know you should be, focusing on, or you should spend 1 hour doing your Arabic language because that's what you told yourself that you want to do in order for you to be able to achieve that goal at the end of the year or whatever it might be. And so if you want to learn the Arabic language, know that while you are at uni right now and while you are studying and while you don't have no life responsibilities. As Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, he said, تَعَلَّمْ قَبْلَ أَن تَرْأَسْ فَإِذَا تَرَأْسَأْتَ فَلَا سَبِيلَ إِلَى التَّفَقُّهِ. That you should learn before you become responsible, before you become somebody of responsibility, whether it's a father, whether it's an imam, whether it's you have a job, whether you have different responsibilities, whether you're a mother. Do learning before that, otherwise then it's going to be very difficult for you to learn. So if you are at uni right now, you are young and so on, take advantage of these years, because these years they will not come back and you will get busier and busier. And so know that the perfect time was last year and the best next perfect time is right now. So if you start as soon as possible while you are not that busy, even though you might think that you're super busy and you're expecting for the perfect time and you will do it later and so on, leave off this quote that a lot of people, they wait for the perfect time to start and they fail to realize that the perfect time or the perfect situation is actually started. A lot of people, they wait for the perfect situation to start and they fail to realize that the perfect situation is actually starting. Even if it's with a little bit of efforts towards it. Even if it's just, as I say, 1 lesson a week, 1 lesson every 2 weeks, whatever it might be. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, خَيْرُ الْأَعْمَالِ أَدْوَامُهَا وَإِنْ قَلْ. The best of actions are the ones that are continuous, even if they are small in its amount. But if it's small, but you continuously doing that, later on compounds. Now I'm in the meaning of the hadith. And with this, I hope you guys have benefited. I hope you guys have gotten enough of a boost to realize how important the Arabic language and how it's not just a language of the Arab, but rather it's the language of the Muslims, because it's the liturgical language of Islam. It's the language we use to access the Qur'an and the Sunnah. So you shouldn't feel like, oh, that's just for the Arabs, me, I'm just going to learn Islam through English or my language. It doesn't work like that. This language was descended in, or this Qur'an was descended in the Arabic language for a reason, and it's not just the language of myself. I'm not an Arab. You know, Imam al-Bukhari wasn't an Arab. Imam Muslim wasn't an Arab. Ibn Faris wasn't an Arab, which is one of the scholars of Arabic. Sibawayh, who wrote a book named just The Book, and everybody refers back to when it comes to grammar and morphology in the Arabic language. He wasn't an Arab. Ibn Sina, as we've seen, he wasn't an Arab, one of the scholars of the Arabic language, known for the Arabic language as well. Az-Zamakhshari, he wasn't an Arab. He's well known for the Arabic language. He's worked in the Arabic language. And so he proves in history that the Arabic language wasn't just for the Arabs, but rather it became the language of the Muslims. And that's what allowed the Arabic language to stay alive after 1400 years, is the Muslims put in that much effort into learning it in order for them to access the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Thank you for listening. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.